Pokemon Scarlet and Violet released 2 weeks ago, and today I'm going to be talking about why this game is probably the best this series has ever seen.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of
amazing content we have ever seen.
Under all of the controversy and issues that the game has been getting right now, there really is a fundamental good experience under there. These issues, however, will not be overlooked in this video because we can't let Game Freak and Nintendo get away with stuff like this. But when they do something good, we also have to praise them. So, let's hasta la vista our way right into this. On your journey, you're going to meet many people. From some of the best designed gym leaders the series has seen yet, like Larry and Grusha, to your 3 rivals and friends, Henny, Arven, and Nemona. At first, I thought that these characters were just going to be your regular rivals, but I was proven wrong very quickly. Let's start out with Nemona. She's a very energetic character that loves battling. And when I say loves battling, I mean really loves battling. But because this is all she does, a lot of people see her as a very annoying character, and she even gets bullied for being the best Pokemon trainer on campus. Since she's basically a prodigy as a trainer, a lot of people are scared of battling her, and that's where you come in. The one and only person that can rival her skills. She immediately takes a liking to you and tracks you along as you complete the gym challenge, challenging you every so many gyms. You defeat her every single time because that's what you're supposed to do, but all the way at the end, when you've defeated the champion, she is actually the real champion battle. And then she says that she can go all out on you for the first time ever. It really is a beautiful battle with everybody standing around and just enjoying your battle and the atmosphere that's hanging there. But in the end, you're also going to go all out and defeat her. She takes this loss very well, and her reaction right at the end of it makes this one of the most epic battles in the game. And once you win against her, you really feel like a champion. A lot of people compare Nemona with Goku. I've personally never seen Dragon Ball, but I think that's a good thing. Nemona is probably the best written rival that we've seen in years. Next up, we're going to take a look at Arven, probably the person that I've had the most emotional moments with in the entire Pokemon series, and I'm not kidding here. I definitely let out a couple of tears throughout this entire story. From meeting him at the lighthouse, you already see that there is something special about this guy. Because just minutes before, you have been saved by what seems a legendary Pokemon, and Mr. Arven here seems to know an awful lot more about this Pokemon than he should, which means that there is a mysterious vibe hanging around him. We also learn that he has a passion for cooking. He also has the Scarlet or Violet book, depending on which version you're playing, where he gets a ton of weird conspiracies about Mystica Herba, which are said to be ingredients that have special powers. But these 5 Herba Mysticas are guarded by the 5 Titans. And since he has now realized that you are a very promising Pokemon trainer, he recruits you to go and take on these 5 Titans together with him, and every time you take one of them down, you learn a little bit more about his backstory. You learn about his dog Pokemon Mabostiff, and that he's been sick for a couple of years, and that even Pokemon centers can't seem to fix him up. That's what sent him to these Herba Mysticas, because they have special healing powers, and he hopes when he feeds them to his dog that they will eventually make him better. After the first couple of Herba Mysticas, you see his health gradually getting better, but there is always this tension of what if he doesn't become better? What if he's going to die? What if the herbs aren't doing their work? And that's what makes these scenes super emotional. His mom or dad, depending on which version you're playing, is also not the best parent because they've been neglecting him for his entire life. So Mabostiff is basically the only real friend he's ever had. This makes these interactions with him even more special and emotional because you feel like you're there for him and helping him achieve something that could change his life. Eventually, after you've collected all of the Herba Mystica with him, Mabostiff does become better, and because you've made so many sandwiches with him, you are basically his best friend. Since you've been feeding all of the Herba Mysticas to Koraidon or Miraidon as well, he's now fully better and has regained all of his strength, except for his battle mode that you saw him in at the beginning of the game. As a request from the professor, you now go to the lighthouse together with Arven because he's the only one that can get into her lab. But before he lets you enter the lab, he wants to know if you're even worthy. So you battle Arven right there, right then. And he has a stacked team of all the Pokemon that he's used against the Titans with you. And honestly, it doesn't really feel good to beat up his sick dog, even though he's all better now. Once that last battle is over, you finally get to see his mother's lab. Here you can see some very cool things like Mabostif's bowl for food. There's just a lot of tiny little details sprinkled in there that really make this room seem like a childhood home from him. But before we go further with this storyline, I first want to talk about Penny and Team Star. Once you arrive on your campus, on the very first day you get confronted with Team Star and you help out this person called Penny who's been harassed by them. After beating up the unruly students, learn a bit more about what Team Star is all about, or at least what they look like on the surface. They're a bunch of troublemakers that skip school all the time and try to make other students join their little gang, which apparently isn't as little as you may think because they have 5 bases all around the Paldea region, with their very own special boss right at the end. It is also here that you meet up with the director of the school, Clavel. He seems to have a lot of problems with Team Star and doesn't really want you meddling with them. So he specifically tells you to leave them alone because he doesn't want any trouble on my first day. However, shortly after, we get a very ominous and weird phone call from a hacker called Cassiopeia, and he has a proposition for us. He's been working on a plan to take Team Star down, and it's called Operation Starfall. Somehow he knows that we're a very promising Pokemon trainer and recruits us to try and take all of the Team Star bosses down, as apparently in the Team Star Brotherhood code, once the leader has been defeated, that facility has to be shut down. At first we're very skeptical about this idea, but we still go along with it. And here's where I want to talk a little bit about the Team Star design.
Hey, want to listen to some tunes?
Let's start off with their boss music, because this is something I am really excited for. This tune is probably one of the best the Pokemon series has ever seen. We have not had this kind of music since, I want to say, Pokemon Black and White and Black and White 2. It just feels so epic, taking on all the bosses, standing on their big rev rooms, and it's just, I can't explain it. It's one of the best feelings there is. Combine that with the designs of the leaders themselves. I mean, look at Giacomo. He might have one of my favorite designs in Pokemon history. I mean, he just looks like this fierce DJ that is scared of nothing and is about to rock your world with his tunes. Mela has this fierce, fiery aura about her. Might just be the boots, but I think she looks absolutely epic, and I know a lot of people love her. All of the other 3 designs aren't as good as these 2 in my opinion, but they all serve as very important shackles in the Team Star story. But before we get into that, let's talk about Clive. He's this weird, goofy character that shows up all of a sudden, and he looks an awful lot like Director Clavel. He is, however, somebody that wants to help us out by scouting out their bases. And he also really wants to know the truth behind what is driving Team Star, what's their backstory, why are they not coming to school? And despite us immediately knowing that it's actually the director, we still let him come along on our journey, because he has the best hairdo in the entire game. Then you start storming all of the bases together with them, and every time you defeat one of the bosses, you get a little bit of a flashback to their team meetings from before. Here we learn that every single one of these Team Star bosses, and actually everybody that's joined Team Star, has been bullied in the past at school. And one day, one of the students had enough of this, so they started Team Star. That person is the so-called big boss, and we have no idea who he is yet. As you go along with the Team Star story, you may see that there is a lot of twists and turns in there. For example, Cassiopeia seems to know all of these Team Star bosses because of their dialogue once you defeat them. He or she seems to have some kind of emotional connection to them, but just swipes it away every time we ask about it. In the Team Star story, we also learned that a couple of years ago, there was a big controversy at the academy with Team Star. They showed up in their outfits and were ready to take on all the bullies. Once they arrived at school, they were ready for a brawl, but they didn't even have to do anything because the bullies were so scared of their appearance alone that they all just left school. This caused for even more problems because of all the students leaving. The entire staff of the school had apparently been sacked as well, and they just hired an entire new school team. That's why Director Clavel had no idea why Team Star was doing this, because he didn't know them 2 years ago, because he wasn't the director then. That aside, once you defeat all of the 5 bosses, Cassiopeia tells you to come to the middle of the schoolyard, because as it turns out, he or she is in fact the Team Star boss that started it all those years ago. Once you go to the schoolyard, you see that the boss isn't there. The only person you see is Penny. She's the mastermind behind everything, and you're going to have to beat her in a Pokemon battle if you want all the answers you need. The cool thing is that she's rocking an Eevee backpack, and there's a reason why she's rocking this. It's because her entire team is full of evolutions. Once you defeat this team though, she gives you all the answers you need. She apparently never even met the members of Team Star because Penny is a quote-unquote shut-in. If you've ever played one of the Persona 5 games, she really reminds me of Futaba. Not a very social type, really loves computers and tech and hacking and all of that stuff, but she definitely has a fun character and vibe around her once you get to know her. Even though she really never met the guys of Team Star, she was still very much invested in their friendship. But then Director Clavel comes around and is like, guys, come on out. And that's where all the Team Star bosses come out of their hiding places and finally get to meet their boss. It's a really cool and emotional moment that's filled with joy because they're all really understanding and friendly with each other. And since Director Clavel now understands what Team Star is all about, he isn't actually going to punish them. No, he's going to make them into a special training unit for the school because they had this really special way of battling where you had to throw your Pokemon out and defeat 30 other Pokemon that way. It was a really refreshing way of getting through an evil team's base. So all ends well for Penny and the Team Star gang because they can just come back to school again and start living sorta normal lives. But Penny is facing jail time because all of the LP that she has been giving me as a reward for taking down the bases has been hacked from the Pokemon League's system. And as you may expect, the Pokemon League's chairwoman isn't too happy about this. But instead of giving her 20 years in prison for laundering money, she offers her a job on the Pokemon League team to try and improve their system. So I guess we won't have to see our friend go to jail, which is a good thing because we'll be needing her for the post-game. There is a lot to do in the post-game. First off, Geeta, the chairwoman of the Pokemon League, recruits you to go and challenge all of the gym leaders for a second time to see their ultimate team and to check up on them if they're still worthy of the title of being a gym leader. So that's what you do next. You go around the region, challenging all of them and learning a bit more about their backstory. My personal favorite of the gym leaders is probably Grusha because I thought that she was a girl, but as it turns out, he is not a girl at all. He's a man, and the reason why he got into being a gym leader is because at first he was a professional snowboarder, but then he had an injury, so he couldn't snowboard anymore, and then he had to turn into a gym leader, so this is all he has left. And most of the gym leaders have really cool backstories like this, so I do have to say props on the design team for creating these beautiful characters. Speaking of gym leaders, I also really did enjoy going through the gym leader missions, like scoring with a big fat olive in a goal, and seeing gym leader Rhyme totally destroy this young guy in a rap battle was also top of the milk content. What I really want to say is that the gym missions in this game are just so much better than the ones in Sword and Shield. One more thing I want to talk about with the gym leaders is their ace Pokemon, which always seem to have a different type than the ones they specialize in. For example, the first gym leader mainly specializes in bug types, but her ace is a Teddiursa with the bug type terrestrialization. This means that gym leaders can choose their favorite Pokemon even if it's not from their typing and still use it in their team. What a time to be a gym leader. Once you've also gotten all of your gym badges, there is a possibility for you to go back to school and take some classes. Every class has 8 sessions, 2 of them being exams. If you get through all of them, you get a ton of rewards in the form of EXP candies, so it's really nice to do them. You also learn a little bit more about the region and learning how to do math with type advantages, stab bonuses, and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend checking out the classes once you're done with everything, because they also unlock something different. You can go around the school to strengthen your bonds with all of the teachers and some of your friends as well, learning a little bit more about their backstories, why they became teachers, what's going on in their daily lives, what their problems are at the moment. It's just really wonderful to get to know these characters on a deeper level. And I hope they really elaborate on this once they get into DLC for this game, or maybe the next installment of main or side series games. And even if you don't like bonding with game characters, there is still a reward in there for you, because individually they will all give you a reward once you complete their side story. Speaking about stories, the dialogue in this game is also just really well written. It's really adapting to our time, the way that Penny talks, and it just brings this level of immersion that previous Pokemon games didn't have. Now there's one last thing I wanted to talk about in this section, Area Zero. So let's go back to the professor's lab where we left off. Here she invites us to come to Area Zero, which is basically the great crater in the middle of Paldea that is off limits. The school doesn't allow you to go there, but since we have authorization from the professor, we are allowed to go. The only thing we need is a team of good trainers to get down there, because it's filled with very dangerous Pokemon, and it's altogether a very dangerous landscape to be in too. But we have a dream team to assemble. Me, Arven, Nemona, and Penny are all in. Even though Penny, Nemona, and Arven don't really know each other very well, they all wanted to help me out, because I've just been such a good friend to all of them. So we gather at Zero Gate, which is the place that we're going to use to get into the crater. Normally you get in there via teleporters, but they have been broken, which already creates this ominous setting, and you have a feeling that something is not right. And this feeling is very much deserved, because once you throw out Koraidon, they seem to be very scared to go down into Area Zero. But it doesn't matter, because you and your 3 friends jump on your Pokemon and they glide you all the way down in one of the most epic scenes. But once you get down there, Koraidon will go back in its ball because they're scared of being there. Once you enter Area Zero yourself, this really cool atmospheric music starts playing, like it's one of the best composed music pieces that Pokemon has introduced ever. And it gives me the feeling that something really bad happened around here. But it also gives me this very futuristic feeling. And that's very good because of all the labs that are around. And these labs function as a key to let the professor out of the lab that she's been trapped in all the way at the bottom of the crater. So she sends us to go around every single one of them and turn on the power again because it's been turned off for some reason. And once that's done, we have to go and see her at the main lab so that we can see what she's been working on all this time. But there is a couple of things that happen in between these lab visits. We get attacked by monsters that don't really look like Pokemon. They're way stronger, and these monsters are the ones that made Mabostiff so sick that they couldn't cure him in the Pokemon centers. Luckily, all of us are very experienced trainers by now, so we easily do fend them off, but the mystery behind these Pokemon is still unknown, until we get a call from the professor explaining everything that happened. As it turns out, she's been working on a time machine. This time machine will either allow her to go into the past and pull Pokemon from there. No human can enter the time machine because then they won't be able to return to this time. And those creatures that we've been fighting, yeah, they're the ones that are coming from the time machine. So after battling through waves of them, we eventually do reach the bottom where we locate her lab. But there seems something very wrong and ominous about this lab because it's been taken over by a giant crystal. These crystals crystals are what allow Pokemon in this region to terrestrialize. And not only that, these crystals have also helped the professor in a research of the time machine. But as it turns out, there is a second Koraidon or Miraidon who jumps behind us and is about to attack our very own buddy here. But just as he is about to swipe, the door of the facility opens and a ton of these past and future Pokemon come out as you battle through them together with Arven, Nemona, and Penny. Eventually, Arven says that he will stay behind to take the rest of them out so that we can go inside and see if the professor is still alright. Here we see a very weird looking image because the professor is sitting on a chair and all of a sudden she seems to boot up, and then she explains to us that the real professor has died and that all of her memories and everything that she knew has been transferred to this AI bot. The reason the professor died is because the Koraidon and Miraidon that came out of the time machine are actually future and past forms of Cyclizard, and they had a turf war in the middle of the lab, and to try and protect our little buddy here, they tried to jump in front of them to stop them from killing each other. This left her with catastrophic injuries, which meant she died after that. This also explains why Miraidon and Koraidon are so unhappy to be here. They are scared of this other Koraidon or Miraidon and don't want to face them again. That's why they don't want to come out of their Pokeball anymore. This is also the reason why they can't go into their battle form. It's because they have a mental block from battling and don't want to go into that form anymore, because they don't want to taste defeat again. But then this AI bot professor takes you down into the basement where the time machine is, and explains that you're going to have to put your special Scarlet or Violet book in it in order to shut it down, because even though the professor would have loved to see this project gone right, seeing these past and future Pokemon going around the region and destroying the entire ecosystem is not what she would have wanted. But from the moment that we're going to put in the book, the AI rebels against us. The professor can't let all of her work just go to waste like that, and that's when you get into the most important battle in the entire story. The professor going all out against you with her full team of Paradox Pokemon is a sight to behold, because this is the first time you're seeing some of them like Roaring Moon and Slitherwing. These are top tier Pokemon designs in my opinion. They are by far my favorite Pokemon out of this region and probably in my top 10 favorites of all time. Once you're able to defeat all of these overpowered Pokemon though, it seems like everything is over. The time machine is shutting down and everything is going to return back to normal. But another safety protocol saves the machine again, and the professor goes even more berserk, and it even seems like she's fusing with the crystals underneath her. They also turn on a system which disables all of the Pokeballs except for the ones from the professor, and that's when she throws out her last Master Ball, which contains the other Koraidon. It's about to devour us and wipe us from this planet, and we can't use our own Pokemon because our Pokeballs are blocked. And that's where it all comes down to one last Pokemon. Since your legendary's Pokeball is technically linked to the professor, we throw him out, and here is where it's all or nothing. He finally enters his battle mode once again and is ready to take on the imposter that took this place from him in the first place. He's ready to protect us. Once you enter the battle, it doesn't seem to go too well. The opponent Koraidon starts off by Giga impacting you and leaving you with only 1 HP. That's where we all start cheering for Koraidon, boosting his stats so that he can take out this mighty beast with a Dragon Terra Blast. Once you defeat the opposing legendary, everything seems to be over. All of the defense systems are down, but we're not able to stop the time machine because the professor's AI is blocking it from being shut down. That's when we get one of the most beautiful conversations between characters. Even though the professor is dead, her thoughts and memories are still embedded in this AI. And that's when the professor explains to Arven that they really did love him, even though they didn't spend a lot of time with him, didn't interact a lot with him. He really was their star. He meant so much to his mom and dad, but they just never had the chance to tell them when they were still alive. And then she says that the only way to stop the time machine from working is if she steps into the time machine herself and goes back to the past. But before she does this, she gives us some very encouraging words about our journey that really filled my eyes with tears. Honestly, I cried in this sequence. It's just filled with so many beautiful words of encouragement and emotional tension. Even the music that plays in the background is just perfect. And then right at the end, she gets sucked into the time machine, never to be seen again. With the time machine now shut down, me and my friends are left with a lot to process. In the end, deep down, Arven already knew that there was something wrong, that this wasn't his real mother, and even our good friend Koraidon seems to be sad that she is gone. Of course, we're also trying to comfort Arven, because this loss must definitely be hard on his mental health. As we're walking back home from Area Zero, there is one final cutscene that plays. We decide to take the long road home and have one last big adventure, because this distraction is exactly what he needs. And that's the end of Pokemon Scarlet. Truly the best story I've ever seen in a Pokemon game to date. And boy, do I hope that they keep building up on this story in potential DLC, because I want these friends to go on way more adventures together. Maybe eventually we'll even be able to enter the time machine ourselves and go back to the past or future to see even more Pokemon forms and perhaps the professor once again. After this, you can go back to the academy to do some extra bonding stuff with your 3 friends. And once you get to know them fully after that, you can enter their dorm rooms. And here is where their personalities really shine through. Arven's is full of healthy food stuff, Penny's room is full of the evolutions as well as a big gaming setup, and Nemona seems to be very clean and has a ton of protein powder for Pokemon. All of this is a perfect little touch to your friendship with these 3 characters. And I really hope Pokemon learns from this, because this was by far the best connection I've had with Pokemon characters since I've started playing the series. Even the one you create with your legendary Pokemon. Personally, I played Scarlet first, and while yes, there are a lot of reused animations with Koraidon, he does have a lot of personality. He almost overtook Swampert as my favorite Pokemon. He might take over Swampert as my favorite Pokemon if we get to see more adventures with him. So hopefully we'll see more bonds like this in the future. When I first jumped into the Paldea region, I had no idea where to start. This world is huge. The first 10 hours was just me exploring, not even getting a single gym badge, and just checking out the environments, which are beautiful. Even though the graphics are outdated, they still look absolutely amazing and are very immersive. Every single area is in the game too. You can go to a desert, there is a snowy area, there is plains, there's a canyon in there, just some flower fields. The amount of variety of areas in this game is just amazing, because right at the end of my playthrough there were still areas that I hadn't visited yet, like the weird orangey green one. I just had no idea that was there. Even after over 60 hours of gameplay, this game just keeps on surprising me with the amount of beautiful landmarks. And the way that you get around the region is also perfect. All of your HMs are sticked into Koraidon. You no longer need ride Pokemon like in Legends Arceus or in Sun and Moon. Nope, your trusted buddy can do it all. Wanna jump off a cliff? He can survive anything. If you get far enough into the game, you can even jump off that cliff and fly for a little bit, or should I say glide, just like in Legends Arceus with Braviary. He can also swim faster than most boats. I would love to trade in my bike in the real world for a Koraidon if I could. And while you're riding on Koraidon, a ton of different music plays. All of this music is something I could never get enough of. While riding through the towns, battling trainers, in my opinion, the music in this game is the best we've had since Black and White 2. And that says something, because that game had bangers like this. I think this school tune has been stuck in my head for the last 2 weeks, and rightfully so, because it's just a jam that you can listen to in your free time. Speaking about the school itself, I love that you can enter so many different areas, like different classrooms, the faculty office, the nurse's office. All of these have their very own charm. Even the main entrance hall with all of the books looks very impressive. It doesn't make me want to go read these books, but still. A lot goes down at the academy, from bonding with your teachers to completing all of the exams to the final team star battle. I personally would love to go to school here. Each town and city in this game also has its very own cool vibe, but I'm not going to lie, not being able to enter any houses really took away from the immersion quite a bit, so I didn't spend too much time in these towns. While the design of them is cool, they just need to do a little bit more with them. I do really enjoy the market where you can like bid on stuff. That is a really cool little thing too. With a new Pokemon game, a lot of new Pokemon are announced, and this time they're bringing 103 new ones. So let's talk about them a bit. First of all, I think this region brings a very good mix of Pokemon. Some of them were really lame, but others really surprised me. Let's start with the starters. Before going into the game, I had a dilemma. I didn't know if I was Team Fuecoco or Team Quaxly. In the end, I did end up going with Fuecoco, and I definitely don't regret it. Starting out as this cute little goofy dinosaur thing, and seeing it turn into this really cool Dia del Muertos kind of crocodile really gave it a good glow up. Even though I personally would have preferred if they kept the goofy thing going, but hey, I still love this guy to death. After seeing Quaxly's final evolution for the first time, I was pretty damn disappointed actually. What is this? But then I saw it in game, and I saw its tail open up, I saw it dancing, and it all just clicked with me. I started to love its design more and more. He's definitely not in my top favorite starters or anything, but I do like him. Now let's go over to Sprigatito. Starting off as one of the cutest cats you've ever seen, it then turns into a fierce middle evolution. And this middle evolution is actually my favorite in the line. A lot of people find middle evolutions awkward, but for me this is a middle evolution done well. It looks very sly and mysterious, but also menacing. And it's really sad to see it evolve because it just loses that. Instead, it gets this lame little mask, and it doesn't have the fierce pose it had before. It has this more elegant thing now. And while in some Pokemon I can totally appreciate that, like Milotic, this thing just doesn't do it for me. It's not the worst design starter out there. I still don't hate it or anything. I just think they could have done better with what they had with the first two evolutions. I personally really loved Arctibax. It's one of the best middle evolutions we've seen in a while, and I also think that Baxcalibur is a little bit underwhelming if you see this little Spino looking guy. I think the Gimmighoul scavenger hunt was a very nice added bonus, because every time you heard this little sound, you knew you get yourself a couple of Gimmighoul coins. And its evolution is very cool. I mean, it surfs on gold, and I've seen a lot of people hating on it, but I really like this goofy looking guy. But the new Paldean Pokemon are just super goofy looking, and I think we all needed a walking Tentacool. The way he walks is just so funny to me. He really reminds me of Squidward, and SpongeBob Pokemon are always nice to see. A lot of people also love Clodsire, and I do have to say there is nothing going on in this guy's head. It's just empty in there. The new Paradox Pokemon's designs are also top tier. I love Slitherwing, I love Roaring Moon. Sandy Shocks is very weird looking, but it still has this charm to it. I'm not the biggest fan of the futuristic Pokemon because they feel kind of unnatural, but they have done a very good job to try and make them fit in the Pokemon universe. Personally, when I think of the past and future Pokemon, I always imagine this scene from SpongeBob. I do think it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't get full evolution lines of these Paradox Pokemon. I would have loved to see a Mismagius or a Wigglytuff bag on our Shelgon, but I am still very happy that they decided to go with this concept of time traveling. The Titan Pokemon are also a really cool new feature that I like a lot. I would have expected them to be a little bit harder to beat, but still, you gotta love it when you beat up that big fat Dodonzo and then the little Tatsugiri jumps out of his mouth and he's actually the real boss. I also like to think that Dodonzo is just a big Paldean Whiscash. So Titan Pokemon, a very big plus for me. The new evolutions, Annihilape and Dodonzo, Dunsparce also look very good, and they are deserved evolutions. Everybody's been praying for a new Dunsparce evolution, and even though it doesn't look that much different, it is just perfect. And Annihilape getting so angry that he basically turns into a Super Saiyan God. I don't think there is a more perfect evolution for Primeape. One last thing I wanted to talk about is the new special variants of Pokemon. For example, the Water and Fire type Tauros that can only be found as a leader of a pack that spawns in. Or even the 3-piece the Dunsparce that everybody's been talking about, but I still haven't seen a picture of it online. But you better be sure I'm going to be hunting for that. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have brought a ton, and I mean a ton of features to the Pokemon world. You're now able to do picnics and make your very own sandwiches that look like this. But that's not the only thing you can do while picnicking. If you put Pokemon from compatible egg groups in your party, they will start breeding, and you can find their eggs in this little basket. So gathering eggs AFK has never been easier. These picnics can also be used to use a new feature, the camera, that you can use to take pictures of your Pokemon with, or even nice little selfies with filters on them and cool new poses. I personally like to take pictures of my shiny Pokemon while picnicking and flex with them on Twitter. Oh yeah, you should follow me, by the way, because I got a couple of beauties. Pokemon outbreaks also make a return from Legends Arceus, but this time they are a little bit different. Way more of them are spawning now, and if you knock 60 of them out, you will have the max out shiny odds. Personally, I haven't found a shiny Pokemon from an outbreak, but you better be sure I'm going to be hunting for a couple of those. Speaking of shiny Pokemon, they are way easier to find in this game. Once you use the new sandwiches with sparkling powder, you will be seeing shiny Pokemon every hour. I started hunting with this method, and in about 2 hours I found myself 6 beauties. And there's also a wide variety of shiny hunting. There are so many different methods, like the exclusion method where you look for a specific Pokemon. You can Masuda method, you can outbreak hunt, you can also just walk around and look for them. And you can make it as hard or as easy as you want. You can get yourself the shiny charm to get quicker shinies, but if you like longer hunts, you don't have to. You also don't have to use these sandwiches if you like your Pokemon full odds. But if you don't have a lot of time to shiny hunt, you can always make it easier on yourself, which is way better for the more casual Pokemon players. Pokemon multiplayer is now also a thing. You can walk around in your very own game together with 3 of your friends. Basically being able to shiny hunt together or play little mini games like hide and seek, which adds a lot of replayability and depth to the game. You can also make sandwiches together with your friends to save a ton of ingredients, and you can steal each other's shiny Pokemon, which is the best thing. Let's hope that they build upon this even more in the future, because Pokemon multiplayer is a thumbs up for me. With every new game, there is also a new gimmick. This time they brought in terrestrializing, and at first I was really skeptical about this because it looked bland and boring when I compared it to Mega Evolution, Dynamax, or Z moves. But when you are in the game itself, terrestrializing your Pokemon, it really feels epic. Your Pokemon gets a shiny new crown, gets a new typing, which allows you to play around some weaknesses or maybe even use other types of moves as stab moves. It brings a lot more variety to the game than I first thought. And if you're using a monotype team, you can now also use Pokemon from different types if they have the right terrestrialization type. While I'm still hoping that one day they will bring back Mega Evolution, I don't think terrestrializing is all that bad. But do tell me in the comments down below what your opinion on terrestrializing is. With this new feature comes a new raid system, and in my opinion, this raid system is way better than in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And did I mention the music that plays when you're doing raids? It just feels so epic when you're in that crystal dome, the Pokemon's reflection is going all around it, and the best music ever is playing in the background. It really gets you hyped up for the battle, and it feels so satisfying when you finally get to capture that Pokemon and get all of your rewards. Another cool thing is the new evolution methods that they gave to Pokemon, like the Bisharp into Kingambit one. First, you have to find the leader's crest item, which are only dropped by King Bisharps that are surrounded by little Pawniards. Then you have to give that item to your Bisharp and defeat 5 of those King Bisharps yourself to show everyone that you're the true badass. And then he evolves in one of the coolest new Pokemon, Kingambit, and its shiny is even better. Besides that, I also like the new walking evolution method where you have to step 1000 steps with your Pokemon before they will evolve, and Palafin's evolution method is also pretty cool. You have to play with one of your friends and throw out both of your Palafins. Then as you level them up with maybe a rare candy or some EXP candies, it will evolve into something that doesn't look any different until you switch it out in battle, because then you get the superhero Pokemon we always wanted. The accessibility for new players to get new items and Pokemon has also been made way easier than in the last couple of gens. You can just buy competitive items in shops, which is a big step up from the last couple of games. You can easily farm XP candies to level your Pokemon up to level 100. You can just buy vitamins to EV train your Pokemon easy too, and gathering up money to buy all of these things is also not the hardest thing to do if you just do a couple of raid battles. And the raid battles themselves also give you some very cool little items like mints that you can use to make your competitive team even faster. The last features I wanted to talk about was the Pokemon animations. For example, the new Charizard that they released in raids a couple of days ago looks so much better than the old Charizard model. Pokemon now also react different to stuff. They really feel way more alive than in the last couple of games, which gives a lot more immersion to the player. And while the animations are not perfect by far, they are definitely taking steps in the right direction. How amazing is it that every Pokemon can swim now, not just water types? And most of them also look very cute while doing so. I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have made a huge step up, but there is of course a lot of downsides to the game as well. The game has quite a lot of frame rate issues, like it runs so badly in a lot of areas. Like when I was doing the Dodonzo event, I don't think the game went faster than 2 frames per second, which is a very big problem, and Pokemon needs to fix this as fast as possible, but it's going to take a while because frame rate issues aren't easy to fix. There is also a lot of graphical issues with the game, like a lot of things not loading in, people falling through the map, these monstrosities that all of a sudden come on your screen. These are all things that can be fixed with updates, but of course a game shouldn't be launching like this. It should be fixed before launching. They should have pushed this game back a couple of months, maybe even a year, and then this would have been the best experience ever. But I am happy that Pokemon seems to be aware of this, and hopefully they're going to fix it in the future, and then we'll have a smooth running game without any performance issues. These are not the only things plaguing the game. There is also quite a ton of game crashes. I think throughout my 70-hour playthrough of the game, it crashed about 5 or 6 times, losing me a little bit of progress every time. This also shouldn't happen, but it's something that plagues a lot of video games these days. A lot of people are also complaining about the graphics looking very outdated, and while I do agree on that point, they need to up the graphics, but the thing is, it didn't plague me all that much. The world still looked good. It's not as terrible as the trailer showed at first. Personally, for me, I don't really care that much about graphics, so it wasn't a big issue, but I do get that a lot of people want the upgrade that most AAA games have these days. The game also does feel very slow at times, definitely when you're in battle. I feel like they could have made it a little bit faster to throw out your Pokemon and choose your moves and the attack to go through, but that's maybe because I'm used to playing on PC and I use speed up all the time, so that might just be on me. But I do think that Pokemon would benefit from a speed up button, but I can imagine that that would take a lot of the immersion away that this game has so much of. Another thing I have experienced that's pretty annoying is the camera angle. Yes, you can zoom it in and you can zoom it out with the click of a button, but still it doesn't really do the job well. Because I do have a lot of problems with not being able to spot things from afar sometimes. And this brings me to section number 6. Since I'm not able to spot things from afar, I won't be able to see shiny Pokemon as their colors are sometimes very unnoticeable. I mean, just look at Tauros for example. You cannot see if this thing is shiny or not. That's why they need to add in the shiny sparkles again from Legends Arceus, so that every time you walk past a shiny, you'll hear that beautiful sound and you know you have to look around, because otherwise you're going to miss it. So Pokemon Company, please get on that as quick as possible. Speaking about Legends Arceus, they really need to bring back its catching system. Because I don't want to enter a battle with a Pokemon, sit through an entire menu sequence in order to throw a Pokeball. And it just feels a little bit sluggish. I would have loved to be able to just throw my ball at the Pokemon and for it to capture it that way. So let's hope they bring that back for the next game. That definitely felt like a big step back to me. But that's not the only step Pokemon decided to take back. Nope, they also took away our infinite TMs. Yes, you can craft them with the right materials now, but I don't want to do that. I just want my TM, be able to use it, and then use it again. Don't give us craftable TMs because I don't want to go out and search for a bunch of Pokemon that I don't want to defeat just to get their materials to make a false swipe TM. I do get why they did it because this gives you more rewards while you're exploring, but I felt like they could have done it a different way. Like instead of crafting TMs with these items you get from Pokemon, maybe just let us craft other items like potions or balls or something with them, not TMs. So step backwards. Don't like that. Another thing that took away a lot of the immersion of the game itself is not being able to enter houses. Yes, you can enter doors by sliding into them, but that's not what I mean. I want to be able to go into every house in a town and then talk to the people there and maybe get some free items. You know, just being able to check out their kitchen, TV, and decoration in general just adds a lot to a Pokemon game, and it's sad that they took most of that away. There definitely should be an Enter Houses DLC in the next couple of months, so Game Freak, get on that because I want to break in and enter some people's homes. I also think there is a fundamental problem with the egg gathering system. Yes, it's a good idea, but I want to be able to send the eggs straight to my party, not to my box. I also want to be able to open up my box while I'm in the picnic so that I can walk around the picnic table and hatch the eggs as I am collecting them. So this was definitely a weird design choice for me. I mean, it's a cool way of gathering eggs. It's a good way. They just need to tweak it a little bit more because this definitely makes egg shiny hunts a lot more annoying than they should be. One last thing I wanted to talk about is that a lot of fan favorite Pokemon are missing. I get that you can't put every Pokemon in the game, and that's really annoying. I just hope that in the future I will be able to get myself a Swampert or maybe even a Metagross in the DLC. I want to be able to use every Pokemon that I like, but I do think that this problem will be fixed in the future. But even though all of these issues are in the game, I still think that this is the best Pokemon game we've ever seen. So props to Game Freak for making one of my favorite games because I can't stop playing it. And that's why Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are so awesome. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on the game in the comments down below. Please let me know what your experiences were, what the game did right for you, what the game did wrong for you, your favorite new Pokemon. I want to know it all. But for now, I'm going to end off the video by thanking my membership and Patreon supporters. If you want to do so yourself, you can click the links in the description. It is always appreciated, but not needed. And as always, people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm Zwigo, and I'll see you guys next time.